What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of Gin Tonic. I'm your host, as always, John J. II, and we got another one coming right at you right now. A little bit of controversy today in ESPN's worldwide world of sports. Today in the show, Get Up, Kendrick Perkins and Ryan Clark, amongst others. Dan Orlovsky was also in there. Don't really want to mention his name too much. Doesn't have much accolades going in his corner. But anyway, Kendrick Perkins and Ryan Clark are the topic of discussion. So as everybody knows, before we get too involved, we'll give you some backstory. So Kendrick Perkins began the entire dialogue with a controversial statement. He prefaced it saying it was going to be controversial and he didn't know how people, especially those within the panel, he didn't know how they were going to listen and respond to it. So he basically said that it's way harder to win a NBA championship than it is to win a Super Bowl or an NFL championship, which is essentially a Super Bowl and has been for a long time. So Ryan Clark was a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They won Super Bowl 43 in 2009, defeating the Arizona Cardinals 27-23. And Kendrick Perkins also won a NBA title with the Boston Celtics in 2008. So both these guys kind of have some room to talk. They know what it's like and they know what it takes to win a championship in their said fields. Basically, Kendrick's side of it was, listen, you gotta win all the games. You gotta win all 7 games, possibly in a certain series. And in the NFL, you could possibly get a first round bye. Ryan Clark's argument was, listen, you got to play 60 minutes every single day. Every single playoff game matters. It's almost like a March Madness situation where you have to win every single game to move on. You lose, you go home. So you have to win all those games going into the final game, which is the Super Bowl. And there's a lot of tenacity going both ways. Now, I think something that also must be said is Kendrick Perkins said right before he made the statement that it is very hard, very difficult to win a championship at any professional leveled sport, NBA, soccer, football. Listen, any sport professionally speaking is going to be very difficult. It's going to be a very extensive feat to not only make it to the final game, to the championship game, but to win and secure that title for that said sport. So he said that it's going to be difficult, but he did claim that it's way harder in the NBA to win that title than it is in the NFL, which is definitely a controversial statement, having NFL players on the panel as well. Now, everyone's going to wonder this. Everyone's going to ask me, well, John J., what's your take? So, having not won either a Super Bowl or an NBA championship, I don't have much room to talk. But if I did have to answer that, I would say it's harder to win in the NFL just because you have to take in that whole aspect of, listen, it's win or go home. I have to leave it all on the field. All 11 players have to leave it all on the field for us to be successful and win that game, whether it's a playoff game or, leading up to the playoffs for playoff position, whether you're fighting for a wild card spot or whatever. I just feel like the games are a lot more there's a lot more riding on each game involved, whereas you can go down 0-2 in the NBA, any series within the playoffs and still bounce back and make it a series going into the stretch. You have different intervals within to make your mark and to come back from maybe a setback. So I would have to take the NFL as being the more difficult championship to win, the more difficult title to acquire, just because it takes so many more parts compared to 5 players on the court. Yes, I'm not going to undermine the NBA title, NBA championship. It's definitely very difficult to not only make it far in the playoffs because you have to be very consistent. The consistency thing is a lot more apparent in the NBA playoffs just because you have to win so many games in rapid succession, very minimal rest time between games. They're pretty rapid fire when they have those NBA playoff games. So that's something else that has to be considered. There's different variables that go into it. Now, to be able to compare either the two, to say one is more difficult to win than the other, I think it's a question you more or less want to avoid because depending on what camp you sit in, it's going to be a controversial topic and you're going to have your own sides and your own points of view that may or may not outweigh those points of view of people in the other camp. So it's kind of one of those never-ending arguments that nobody will ever win because it's more based on opinions and things of that nature. So it's nothing that can really be based on any quantitative or qualitative data and can be set in stone as being statistically more difficult. So let us know in the comments. Let us know. Send us a DM on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and let us know what you think. What's harder to win, an NBA title or a Super Bowl? I'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Gin and Tonic. I'm your host, as always, John J. II. Have a great day.